Peeps, what's up? It's your boy Metaphysical Mark here. Going live with a special guest today. He's an actor, a SAG actor. I'm about to bring him on right now. Sending an invite. What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining. Let me go and bring him on. Yeah, so I have Scott with me today. He's about to join me now. Like I said, he's a SAG actor. He's done some voiceovers, which is really something that I've been wanting to look into. As you can tell, being the voice that I have. Let me bring him on right now, though. Brother, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well, man. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having. Oh no, it froze.
Yeah, technology, man. We can never get it right. As
I
much as
know,
we advance it, we just
right? It just still, and then we're and then we're just more and more at the mercy of it.
yeah, yeah. Especially now, it's like it either works or it doesn't, and we have to go with it. Have to roll with the punches of the flaws. But
I, I know. Well, because we create it, right? And then we're like, and then we're beholden to it, and we're like,
yeah,
wait, but it doesn't work, and then we get stressed about it, and
it's like it's flawed like us.
yeah, totally. How you
No,
doing,
but
man?
thank you, man. Thank you. I'm good, man. I'm good. How are you? How's LA right now? Well,
Um,
how's it
it's
treating you?
good. It's slightly overcast today, which is a rare thing.
Yeah,
But it's good. Just when my girlfriend and I went camping over the weekend up in Lake Arrowhead.
I saw that you had a little technical difficulties up
We
there too,
did.
huh?
We got stuck on the mountain. You don't follow ways to get out of a desert campsite.
Yeah.
You don't do that, Mark.
That's hilarious. I saw the picture. I was like, I bet he ended up having a good time though, regardless.
It was a
He made the best of
it was a
it.
blast. I love situations like that because there's nothing to do but surrender. There's nothing to do
Yeah.
but over, right? Like literally we got stuck and then I was like, all right, I'm just gonna pray. I'm gonna
Hmm.
like wait a minute. Oh wait, hold on, we need the full story. Okay. My girlfriend and I went camping up in Apple Valley in California, which is near Lake Arrowhead. And when we were leaving the campsite, my girlfriend decided to plug into Waze how to get home. We live in LA.
Uh-huh.
And took us up this crazy mountainous winding road that we later found out cars aren't even supposed to be on. And by the way, she has a 2007 Prius, so we're navigating this terrain that like is only for dirt bikes
Yeah.
and for four-wheel drive vehicles.
In
Literally
a Prius.
made town, there was a sign that cars weren't even on it. It was dirt bikes and four-wheel drive horses. So we're trying to get over the mountain, and at one point we got stuck. We couldn't.
Ah,
The dirt was soft and the wheels
yeah. So
started
you couldn't. Yeah, no
couldn't do anything.
traction.
So we reversed to try to go back the way we came, but
Uh-huh.
that was a downhill thing. So when we tried to go up that way, we got stuck again.
Oh, wow.
So literally that moment, I was just like, all right, well, there's nothing like we can do. So I'm just gonna pause and pray and see what happens. And about 5 minutes later, two dirt bike riders came by and they're like, do you guys need help? The one guy was so great, he rode up ahead to see anything else we might have to be careful about.
Uh-huh.
And then he came back, he's like, well, once you get up there, you're good, you gotta go down, blah, blah, blah. And then the two of
That's
them and
amazing.
I we just pushed and got a little motion and she went right up the hill and then it was
Look at what happens when you just surrender, man.
totally
You just allow those answers and those opportunities to come and flow in, and that's
100%.
it's great that we started off like that because that's
Yeah.
pretty much
Yeah, but it was
the
crazy, Mark,
premise of the show.
because even once we got up the hill, we still had to go down about 2.5 miles to get to the highway,
Uh,
and even that was like this crazy winding thing that was mostly downhill, which was great. Uh, But again, when we got to the bottom and you looked at the sign, it said horses, and dirt bikes, no cars. And we're under 2000s. We're in a Prius.
In a
We're in a
Prius, yeah, you're not
Prius
going.
off-roading.
Hey, you only
I
live
just,
once, man.
dude,
Sometimes you gotta.
I looked at my girlfriend and I just said, so if you decide to go, next time we go camping, if you decide to go out a different way, hey, man, can we just talk about it first?
That's hilarious, but it shows so much about life too in that aspect. Like, sometimes you gotta go and tread a little bit and go against the grain just to be able to have that surrender and be like, okay, and then see those blessings in the midst of the chaos.
Dude, I don't know about you, but I am better in the midst of the chaos. Like, especially things like that, because you have to be
Yeah,
present, right?
yeah.
You're literally like, do I steer to the left? Do I steer to the right? There's a big rock,
Hmm.
there's a thing, and you're so present. I get back to the city and it's so civilized and everything's convenient and there's so many things and like
Yeah.
it's like I do better in nature in the
I
wilderness. Like,
definitely, I definitely agree with you on that. It takes you back into a place where you have to be aware of yourself, if that makes any sense. Like you have to really
uh,
be aware of yourself in the situation, in nature, just being outside. Like if you go camping, you have to be aware that, hey, where am I at? Like, let me, be really on guard on like a bear might come out or a coyote or something like that. Like really being
yeah,
aware of that, it brings you to a piece of that, like you said, that surrender. So then you can feel it. You can, go back into your instinctual aspects of ourselves that, we lose being so civilized, but can't get away from it. It's a part of us, and it's a part of why we are the way that we are too. And I think that's a huge part of what we're getting back into, if that makes any sense. I feel like
I
people are getting back into
I
feeling
agree.
things more.
It's interesting because it actually feels like it's easier. I was talking to my girlfriend about this. It feels easier to have gratitude with less things, right? Like I was just so
Yeah.
grateful for the simplicity of a fire. I was so grateful that we had bagels. Like just simple things where I come home and I'm like, oh, there's 40 things in the refrigerator. What do I want to eat? It's all annoying. I don't want any of it.
Yes,
Like I'm
definitely.
happy like we've got water and a fire and it just
Yeah.
completely connects me back to
A can of
being
beans.
grateful. Yeah, right. I like what I'm grateful for it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for giving us that, going into it right away. Um, I want
My
to give you
pleasure.
a chance to tell the people about you and your career and what you do.
My name is Scott Victor Nelson, and I am an actor and a coach in Los Angeles, California. I've been an actor for over 20 years. I started in Chicago, working at the Goodman Theater. I've worked with Steppenwolf. I've worked with other regional theaters in LA. I've worked with Road Machine. I did a play at the Geffen a few years ago. A lot of theater stuff, which I love. And then I also have done some TV and film work. There's a film called Limbo that's on Amazon that just came out recently that you can watch. Um, and Private Practice, The Mentalist, things like that. And then also had a pretty successful voiceover career. I was the voice of I was the voice of Toyota Prius for a while. I was the voice of Northern Trust Bank for 7 years. I narrated a show on TLC called My Crazy Obsession. I was the voice of Bravo. I've been very blessed with my
That's amazing.
currently I'm doing all the radio commercials for Disneyland and Disney World. So if you're in Florida and you and you're
That's where
listening,
I'm from.
yeah, well there you go. Well tell your
So,
family back in Florida that to when they hear like come to Disney World, that's me.
no, definitely, I definitely will. I'm like, hey, guess what, guys? Fun fact of the day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then in
That's
addition to that,
amazing.
I coach people to be their authentic selves. Because one of the things that I've learned through this process is it doesn't matter any of the external stuff you get.
Hmm.
So I got so much on external things from a place of presenting what I thought the world wanted or and it
Yeah.
wasn't necessarily connected to my deeper truths, right?
Hmm.
So you can have everything in the external world and feel completely empty internally. And so I coach people on how to be their authentic selves so they can have an experience of wholeness and realize that none of the outside stuff ever fixes the inside stuff.
Yeah, yeah. You got to go inside first, and that's a
Yeah.
huge. That's the biggest key. The biggest key is
Yeah.
once you unlock that inside first, everything outside just starts to manifest in the sense of what you did inside will start to show. So, a lot of times we aren't told that, and we aren't showed that, especially in our day and age, with everything just points to, hey, well, you have this. Here's some medicine. Here you go. Here's this, here's some
Yeah.
medicine, here's a script, here you go. Instead of really
Yeah.
digging deep and really allowing people to really find that spark in themselves, to really, dig deep and find themselves again. Because it's just that little kid that we, forgot about
One,
way back
100.
when we were just free, we had no cares in the world, just free living, things just flowed like they were meant to, time wasn't a factor, things
Yeah.
like that. Is just getting back to those understandings and those basics. So that's great. And I did not know that I didn't know you were a voiceover actor until I looked at your bio.
Yeah.
And I was like, I literally was just talking to my girlfriend like last week, and I was like, how do people get into voiceover? Because people are always like, oh, you should do this because my voice is so deep. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't even know how that even, like, how do you even apply for that? So it's so ironic that I look, I'm like, oh, he's a voiceover
Yeah.
actor. So this is going to be a
Yeah.
great conversation to actually have. How did you land into that field? How
So it's really interesting because if I look back, I was doing it as a kid. Um, I didn't realize it, but I did the morning announcements from grade school.
oh,
So I was already in the process of using my voice to convey information, right?
yeah,
When I was living in Chicago, before I was an actor, I was a casting director and I used to cast voiceovers and I used to cast commercials and all that stuff.
got
And
you.
so some of my friends were like some of the most talented people in Chicago, and I'd bring them in and I'd audition them, and I loved it. It was great.
Mhm.
And then eventually I got kind of burned out on casting, and I wanted to actually I wanted to get out of the business completely, and that was actually when I ended up acting, because I ended up coming into it from a place of
Got you.
kind of this place of I don't have to do this. I just want to
Just
do
want
this.
to,
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like it's no
yeah. So
longer
it
like
gave you
I
freedom.
have
Yeah,
to.
yeah,
It's like
yeah.
this is the thing that I love to do. Like you're talking about being a kid. This is this thing that I love doing, and now I want
Hmm.
to do it again. And it just happened to be that one of my close friends was one of the number one voiceover actors in Chicago,
Got
and
you.
I did this conservatory with Steppenwolf in 2003. Steppenwolf was a big regional theater. It's where John Malkovich came from, and
Uh-huh.
Gary Sinise and John Mahoney and K. Todd Freeman and Joan Allen and like tons of Jeff Perry, just tons of amazing, wonderful working actors. And after I did this conservatory with Steppenwolf, I felt like I just had more confidence. And
Yeah.
so I asked my friend Amy to introduce me to her agent. And it was one of those things, Mark, where it was just the right time and the right place. And like, they happened to be in the market. They no longer really wanted people that sounded announcery. They wanted people who sounded like, just the guy
Yeah.
or and I was so opinionated and thought everything I was like I don't know, 20 something and really full of myself and had a huge attitude. So everything I was kind of like, well, whatever the fuck, I don't fucking need it. And it just worked. It just worked because they were looking for that read at the time. They were looking for that person who was that non-announcery announcer. And it just happened to line up at the time that it worked.
It's amazing, man.
Worked. When I moved to LA in 2004, like I immediately just started working again. Like I just was very, very blessed, very lucky as far
Yeah.
as that.
Hey, I think it's benefits. It's just a constitute of what you already went through and put in the work to. You know what I mean? I think it
Yeah,
was just a precursor to all the things that you've done over time, to when you just stepped out and just allowed yourself to be like, well, whatever happens, it was like, oh, well, this is everything. Here it is. Here,
yeah,
here you go. It's the
totally.
opportunity of a lifetime to really just go into a place where, like you said, you're just doing what you love to do. You're just being in that essence, and being able to have the creative freedom of choosing if you want to or you don't want to, what really fits with you, what doesn't, is big in that essence,
Yeah,
in that sense of like creative freedom and being able to express yourself, because that's huge. So I think that's just a testament to just the work you did before that and everything just lining up. So that's
thanks.
that's funny, because that was the first thing I was wondering. I was like, how do you get into voiceover? Because
If you know, there's classes you can take and stuff, and I think the thing is like once you have the intention to do it and you
yeah,
take the action, then more opportunities can happen and things can happen, and
yeah,
so we can.
definitely,
I can definitely put you in touch with like people that teach and things like that, and yeah, happy to help.
definitely, definitely. Well, is it anything like a certain aspect of your journey that really took that made a shift for you in that aspect of faith, or just applying a different type of mindset to get you to where you're at now?
Well, what's really interesting, it's a great question. What's really interesting is that so it's sort of at the height of my voiceover career and everything going well. My father died very suddenly,
Mm,
and it threw me for a real like loop. Like I really was just not prepared for it,
mhm.
and it made me really question kind of everything I was doing and what had meaning. And there's this thing about when he died, it almost felt like, and I think you'll get this, it almost felt like if there was a line of people and I wasn't first in line, all of a sudden he died and I got shoved to the front of the line. And I was like, but I don't even know what I'm doing here yet. Right. Like,
Yeah.
and I just realized that, even though I had all this sort of material success, internally I was really angry and I was really scared and I wasn't dealing with it. And so I ended up quitting drinking and quitting smoking pot
Hmm.
and dealing with a lot of really deep emotional things that I hadn't dealt with.
Yeah.
Um, early childhood stuff that you kind of don't even know is there because it all looked okay,
Hmm.
it
Got
looked okay.
used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're like, and if you, I don't, for me, I'm so convinced that if the external looks okay, then the internal is okay. And I learned that that's not necessarily the case. You can live in a really nice house and things be really fucked
Inside
up,
be, yeah. Plumbing, wiring.
right? All the internal stuff can be really messed up. And so I had to really learn all of that. And I kind of had to relearn how to be in my body, which was crazy because I
Hmm.
had been a yoga teacher and a meditation teacher and I thought I knew, right? But
Yeah.
so much of it is just present moment. So much of it is
Hmm.
not having it
Deep
figured out,
digging
right?
deep. Yeah,
Deep,
I agree
like deep
100%.
shit. And like
Yeah.
what you already nailed on the head is that whole like relationship to that little kid.
Hmm.
Dude, when people talk to me about inner child work, I wanted to punch them and throw up at the same time.
That's
I was
so
like,
many
inner
people. That's
child.
so many people.
Oh, oh.
They're
Like,
like that little kid. Why would I want to be? It's like,
why would I want to have a relationship with that little kid that no one else wanted to have a
yeah,
fucking relationship, right? Like,
exactly.
and that's been the biggest work, man, is that like now
Hmm.
I have this relationship with this kid, and so I'm always taking care of him. He's always with me. I'm no longer
Yeah.
looking for someone else to take care of him. I had no idea how much I was navigating the planet still looking for
Hmm.
a parent, even though I was
Yeah.
way beyond that age, you know so
Definitely.
yeah, so that was kind of the big shift, and really getting into much more of the really deep, like you're saying, the mining, the
Hmm.
really deep work that is
Yeah.
painful, that
Just
is
painful. Yeah.
really, oh, dude,
Yeah.
it's so painful
So
because
it
so much,
really is.
because there's so much grief.
Yeah, yeah, that you have to relive, but you have to relive it now. You know that you're older, so now you can see that, oh, okay, this is why I do this, because of this situation that happened way back when. Now I understand how I can change this, but you have to sit in it to really feel the resonance, and that's what a lot of people don't want to go in that, and people like us are so important, especially in this day and age, because people have so much time on their hands, especially since last year with COVID, to have to sit in that. And they didn't have anywhere to go. You know, they couldn't go out and go to the bars. They couldn't go to this and they couldn't go. They had to literally sit in that and deal with it and see
Yeah.
how it's really influencing them and how it's impacting them. And, you know, people are afraid to go through the painful things, but they don't understand they already went through it and they
They
lived
and they're
through
and they're
it.
still in them. That's what no one
And then
understands. Like they're like, I don't want to feel that. And you're like, dude,
you're
you
feeling it
already
now.
are. You're feeling it
Exactly.
now. The whole
Like
thing you're
if you let
yeah,
it go, you'll feel
yeah,
better. Like
yeah. Well, if you embrace that
it's
you're
just getting them to
feeling it,
see that.
right? If you
Yep.
accept that you're actually feeling it, you're gonna feel better.
Hmm.
I think there's
Yep.
this whole, it's one of the things that actually concerns me a little bit about the whole manifesting world right now is I feel like everyone's learning how to get stuff, but that stuff's not gonna fix or deal
Nope.
or help with the internal stuff. So everyone's learning, let me get this and I can get this and look what I can make, which to me also can just kick up even more control issues, right? 'Cause you're like, look,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm so powerful.
Exactly. And then you really are going down that road of just more self stuff that you have to deal with. It's just
Yeah.
making it more amplified now that you have more money, you know, and more things. Now it's more responsibilities, more this and more. It's simplicity is best in the sense of going about things in that manner, especially if you know, if you haven't really sat and done that work, because that work is so important. It's so important because when you get the things that you get, you know, you aren't too necessarily caught up with those, because you know, if they leave, you're still going to be you. You know, if more comes, cool, you're still going to be you. You're still going to be able to know how to operate. You're still going to be able to know how to care for yourself and tend to yourself because you've created those boundaries, you
That
know?
that's
And
beautifully, dude, that's so beautifully said because I think that I know for me even there was so much
mhm,
attachment to stuff, right? So when the stuff went away, because it did go away for a while,
yeah,
um, there was a sense of, well, who am I if I don't have these things, right?
yeah, yeah.
And it's weird because it's so easy to throw around all these spiritual terms like non-attachment, right? And
Yeah, yes.
we love saying it because it makes us feel good and like we're somehow being spiritual.
Feel
But
powerful.
but you first have to realize what you're fucking attached to and how deeply attached you are to it. Like so deeply attached to it, it's your identity, you know?
Exactly, exactly, exactly. That part. And it's such a it's a lot of so many words, so many phrases in the spiritual community that people use that go to the extremity of what that is saying. You know what I mean? They don't take the rest of the stuff. Like I had to learn when it was like, you know, practice non-attachment. I'm like, so to feel nothing, like to know nobody. I was like, I don't know. That my soul is saying that that's not what I'm supposed to do. And it was like, no, you're supposed to. I'm like, no, I think they're saying like, don't be too attached to where you lose yourself,
Mhm.
but still be attached to where you have some type of resonance with it, or you're going to be walking in the world with no resonance with anybody. You're not going to know how to communicate with anybody. You're not going to know how to be, because you have no resonance with them. You've detached yourself from the whole planet, the whole human species. And I'm like, I don't think that's what they were trying to say.
Mhm.
But you know how people are with things nowadays. They are just extremists. They're like, no attachment. I don't want to feel anything. I have to just feel myself. It's like feeling another person is feeling yourself. You're allowing yourself to feel emotions for that person. So now you're, you know, are actually starting to understand what those emotions are. You actually are starting to understand how to maneuver with those emotions. So now you're understanding yourself more because you're interacting with other people. And
Yeah.
we're we're communally like species. We're supposed to be
We're
in
we're
tribes. And
yeah, 100%.
yeah.
We're a social animal,
Hmm.
and definitely we're meant to be. And I'm a big fan of the sort of village and tribe
Same.
mentality. I think the nuclear family really fucked shit up.
Yeah. That's you're so on point, brother. I feel like we're getting back to that, like tribal, like,
Yeah,
hey, like we're gonna have a tribe here.
yeah,
This
totally
is
right.
where we're comfortable with. And like
The idea
I
of
think
separate,
we flourish more than that.
Yeah, because this idea of separating from the tribe and just having like two people, and these are the people, and you go to all these people, or having one person as a partner, right?
Yeah.
And this is the one person you go to for all these needs. It's like it doesn't make sense. Like if you, it
Mm,
doesn't logically make sense.
no, because
How
no species that is tribal is like that, you know. Like,
you, how did you arrive at this? Because I was doing a little background on you, and I couldn't find, the things that I wanted to find. So I'm very curious how you've arrived where you are.
well, my my past goes from various different stages, so to get here has been a journey in itself. But um, I started off in my spiritual understanding of life very young, but going through trials and tribulations. I grew up in the foster care system, so
Mm,
having to mentally get myself um, able to be on a path where I didn't go the other end. I didn't succumb to the anger. I didn't succumb to, rebelling against everything that was happening. I went to a place of understanding just by nature, which is a blessing in itself. And I'm glad I did and was able to move there because, excuse me, it allowed me to really open up my mind. So it
mm,
allowed me to see more things. So in the midst of adversities and things like that, I could still see the light in the
mm,
midst of it. So it
mm,
always allowed me to have that hopeful nature and stuff like that. So moving up as I got older, football was a really great outlet for me in the sense of I didn't have much of a family, so that was my family. Football was always family oriented in the sense of the coaches, the brotherhood. So that was me growing up playing football. Actually was second team All State in Florida because I'm originally from Florida. Second team All State, ended up getting a Division II scholarship um, to play at West Liberty University in West Virginia.
mm.
So I played there for a year. Just being a kid that literally just got out of foster care in the middle of nowhere by myself. It was just a shell
Oh,
shock to my system because I was
wow.
like, I'm football isn't fun anymore because when you move up to college, it's more of a business now. So now you understand the business behind the game and how things operate. And I'm like, I just want to play football, man. Like I just
Yeah.
came here to play football. Like
Yeah.
if I would have just stayed home just for the school thing, but I wanted to play football. Now you're all taking away the fun and enjoyment of that. And now the brotherhood is being tarnished because it's like, everybody's a business. So it's this. So it really took a toll on me in that aspect. And then I ended up going back home after I had lost my scholarship due to weed issues. Just having nothing else to do in the sense of knowing nothing else in how to turn. And the coaches were there, but they weren't there. So I was just like, everybody was just in a very deep depressed state. So, that happened. And then I went home um, and was trying to go back and play again. But I had my daughter. So when my daughter came, that became the most important thing. I
Mhm.
knew since I was little in foster care that I wanted to be a dad. That was my like dream growing up. What do you want to be? I was like a dad because I didn't have that. So when she was born, it changed my whole trajectory with basically everything I was doing. I was like, okay, I'm not going back and play football because it's going to be redundant with time. I have a daughter. I have to take care of her. So what can I do to make sure that I'm good and she's good? So it took a lot of introspective of like, okay, you don't have football anymore. So who are you without football? Like who are you before you started playing football? Like what was your things? What did you like to do? What things like that. So it took a while for me. It was like probably 2 years of just digging deep within myself at the same time of um getting back in tune to that spiritual aspect of myself. Because I'm also an intuitive, so I've been like that my whole life and didn't realize it until later on. It was like, oh, this makes sense. How I used to tell people, hey, this is gonna happen, and then it'll happen. I'm like, oh, I just thought I told you so,
Yeah.
But later on, I started realizing that I'm like, oh, okay. So it started changing me more into um, more of a mystical philosopher. So I started studying more. I started spending my time literally studying old philosophies and old texts and stuff like that. And it resonated more with me than on the same level that I felt when I played football. So
Yeah.
it was that love was coming back. I was finding myself again
Yeah.
through spirituality and through just metaphysics and understanding. I'm like, this makes so much sense about life. Like, this is a lot.
Who did you gravitate towards? Like, what did you read that kind of really spoke to you about that?
Um, old hermetics.
Wow.
Like,
You went deep.
yes, I went really deep because I
Wow.
had a very deep revelation, and nothing but Egyptian culture was the only thing that resonated with me.
Wow.
And like Thoth, the Egyptian god Thoth was the only like god in that resonance that resonated with me. So everybody was talking about like Osiris, Horus, this. I was like, dog, Thoth, like describe. This is knowledge. This is wisdom. So then that went from there to straight boom hermetics, and then I was like, oh. So then I started understanding hermetics more, and I was like, why are we not taught this in school?
I know. I know.
It, and that's what brought me to more of a okay, understanding the law of attraction, the universal laws, the things that they talk about now. So I'm like, oh, but you have to find that aspect of yourself first. That's the part they leave out
Mhm.
in talking about the manifestation and stuff that they just give you the surface level. But it's like it's a lot of this deep, it's depth that you have to go through to be able to understand how that even comes into your life. Because you can bring it, you can put the will out there, but if you don't change your vibration inside yourself to be able to receive that, it's never going to come to you, and you're going to beat yourself up and think, well, why isn't this not coming? I asked for it, this doesn't work. Like, well, it takes work for it to work.
Yeah, yeah, I 100% agree. And I think it also takes the acceptance of the part of you that doesn't want it. And
Yes.
nobody wants to talk about the fact that lack is okay. We have so, right? Like we don't look at that and we don't allow that to be part of the equation, but it is.
Hmm.
And when we allow it to be part of the equation, then everything becomes possible. But if
Yeah.
this is okay and this isn't okay, this is eventually not going to be okay.
Yep. Yep.
Like,
It's
dude,
just gonna change.
that's a hell of a story. I have a friend who came up through the foster system too, and that's,
Hmm.
I mean, no, I'm not surprised that you're intuitive and that you've developed these things and you've sought for what you sought for because of what you saw and what you went through, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that there's that creates a certain template
Yeah.
for
Definitely.
I'm gonna see through all of this stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
And then when
beautiful.
you walk through it, that faith is, oh man, I tell people I am a faith based walker. Like I been through
Yeah,
so much stuff that like I know I'm like, oh, okay, this is gonna be okay. Because
yeah,
and because I've seen it. I've seen it happen over and over and over again.
yeah.
So it
Do
definitely
you
helps build
still
that.
you're gonna dude, that's so incredible. Like you're gonna be able to help so many people.
Yeah.
Um, do you still struggle with fear?
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Like
mean,
more of a myself. You see, you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
the fear of failure, but not scared of taking the risk. But the fear is so there that when I take the risk, it's a calculated risk that I'm like, okay, I'm sure. I've weighed the options out. Here we go. Let's go into it. You know what I mean? So it,
Yeah.
it, it makes me sharper in my details, attention to details, and attention to um like traits or patterns. So then I'm like, okay, but I definitely have those fears still in the sense of just uh failure and it just being on me. Because
Yeah.
I have a daughter now. So
Yeah.
so that just makes it
How old
that
is
much
she?
more. She's 7.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Yeah, she's like 10 in her mind though. You can't she's super smart. So, just trying to raise her and allow her to, not have to go through things that I'm, you know, having to go through in the sense of what I went through. So I'm just trying to just give her a template, but also allow her to um, get those core values that you can only get when you go through adversity. So I still
Yeah.
let her go
Yeah.
through her things and then talk to her about it and then, let her tell me what she felt and why this happened, this and this, so that it's more of that dynamic because I want her to be able to explain herself
Yeah.
and think about it and then show her another angle.
Yeah.
So then when she goes out, she's like, oh, wait,
Yeah.
another angle. So it's very
That's
strategic
beautiful.
in my sense.
It's beautiful, man. Though what you're also teaching, though, or what it sounds like you're teaching her is how she can have her own experience too.
Yes.
I don't know about you, but like I didn't have that.
No, not at all.
Right? It was like I was like told to be great. Like I was just told to be grateful. Just be grateful. Just be
Yeah,
grateful.
yeah, yeah.
Can't have any, but you can't be angry. You can't be anything else. You can't have any other
Nope.
feel.
You should be happy because of this and this and this. Well, why can't I be sad?
Right. Right. I know.
Oh, definitely, definitely. It's definitely a testament to, just where I've been and why I'm so motivated and dedicated to what I do now. Because I know how it feels to be on the opposite side of not having anybody. So
Yeah.
I try to be here for just anybody that needs me in that aspect.
Yeah. That's beautiful, man. Yeah. I feel like one of the things that I've learned through this, I've always been service minded, but I
Hmm.
feel like I've become even more service minded in terms of like, you brought up during this pandemic, which is one of the things that I thought of too, which is thank God I had done so much of this work prior.
Yes.
Sudden, you were forced to be with yourself.
Yeah.
And it's not an accident that alcohol sales shut up through the roof and domestic violence shut up through the roof,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
People can't
Yes.
with themselves. And the idea of just being able to be there to witness someone, right? Just to be
Hmm.
able to hear them and see them, because everyone just wants to be seen and heard.
Exactly. That's
That,
it.
that's it. We
That's
just want to
it.
be right. And I feel like once I was actually witnessed by someone who could hold space for, say, my anger, right? Because that was a big
Hmm.
thing for me. I was all of a sudden not as afraid of my anger, and I could have a different relationship with it, you
Yep.
know? And
Yep.
it's super powerful. I mean,
It
the
really
work
is.
really powerful.
It really is. It truly is, brother. And I'm glad to even have. I don't even know how we came across each other, but I'm
I
so
don't
glad
know,
that the
dude.
universe.
I don't know, but I was so excited, and this. I don't know. I'm just going with it. I love it. Let's just go with it.
It's just yep. That's just how in those how things work. Like I have no idea how. I just saw you. I'm like I'm reaching out. Like
Yeah,
hey brother, how you
yeah,
doing, man? Like,
yeah. I know,
like
and I was
please.
like, yeah, let's do this. Absolutely. And I'm
I
so
definitely
glad because
appreciate
this
you.
this is the thing too. Like I feel so, having just this conversation, I already feel like I'm like, oh my God, I want to stay in touch.
Oh,
Like,
definitely. Yeah, me too. I'm like, oh, definitely. I'm gonna hit him up right after this. I'm literally already thinking like, yep. Since we get off this,
yeah,
shooting him my
yeah,
number
yeah.
and be like, hey,
I'm like, oh great, it's another member of the soul family.
exactly.
Yeah,
Soul Tribe, and you
yeah,
you know the vibes. You know the vibes when you know the
yeah.
vibes. So
Yeah. Well, there's something about someone who's been through something who's willing to admit it and not
yeah,
put something on top of it, right?
yeah,
Because there's a connection to pain, which, again, I feel like we're taught is problematic, except in spiritual text. We're taught how
yeah,
it's part of life, especially Eastern spiritual texts, right?
yes,
Like really, like, pain, like the Dalai Lama talks about and Buddhism talks about, like pain is inevitable, suffering is a choice, right?
mm-hmm,
And but so being able to have that relationship and someone who actually experienced their pain and then does something with it to transform something or change something, it's very, very powerful.
yeah.
And I can feel that through you. And I'm grateful for this conversation, man.
I'm grateful for you, brother, and I'm glad that we can even have these type of conversations, especially being men. Like
I know.
it's so important, so huge, man, to be able to allow men to see men talking about their feelings. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
with each other.
yeah,
Like it's so
yeah,
that dynamic has to change for us because it's so detrimental to mental health right now for men. It's like being able to feel like they can express themselves. So I'm glad that we,
yeah,
can be men holding space, talking to each other about holding space for other men and other people
yeah,
to come, and just feel that
yeah,
energy, that resonance of just love and acceptance and just being a ear, just being there. It's being
yeah.
there. It's important.
At 100%. I think that, I think that I just echo everything that you're saying. And I think that men get a bad rap,
Hmm.
right? And And I'm not saying that there isn't reason for it. And I'm not saying that there aren't bad men or people that are misguided, right? But I
Yeah,
don't know about you, but I grew up feeling an inherent guilt for being a man because I was told I was the problem.
I
And
go through that now.
right? And you're going through that now?
Hmm. Yeah, I have to sit down with certain people, like friends of mine, when they talk about it, because I do understand the toxic, masculinity that's been going on in our world for a while. But like not every man is like that. So when I'm talking to, some friends of mine that are females and they bring it up, I have to be like, hey, you have to change the way you're saying that because you're talking to me and I'm a guy and I'm not like that. So
Exactly. And the thing is like I think if we're going to talk about toxic masculinity, we also need to talk about toxic femininity
I agree. I agree 100%.
because it works the other way too. The cutting
Hmm.
down, the shaming, the deep criticism.
Exactly.
It it cuts deep.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's interesting. I've heard that men have yang bodies but yin souls, and women have yin bodies but yang
And yang
souls,
souls. That
right?
makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of
So
sense.
like men are inherently underneath it. There's a sensitivity that is so much deeper than what
Yes.
people say or think or anything like that, right? Like even though we're in
Agreed.
these bodies and blah blah blah, like the sensitivity goes
We're
so
huge teddy bears, man. And
huge.
like if you want to like an example of that, find a son and their mother. Like if you they'll be the biggest mother's boy, like mom, like literally tell her everything, pour out her heart. Like it's the first person because we're so huge, like babies, like in that sense of like emotions, and we're told to keep them in. You
I know.
can't, you can't, you can't, you can't, you can't unless it's someone that we trust in that aspect. And then that's hard because then you're telling, you don't know who to trust because the people you're around aren't really being talking about their feelings. So you don't know how to feel that feeling, that resonance, that understanding. So I definitely hear you, brother. I definitely hear you.
Well,
Definitely.
I wonder for you too, because I know for me, like I didn't grow up like look, my mom was very loving, but she
Hmm.
also had a lot of anger issues and a lot of rage and was
Got you.
would be very emotionally aggressive, right? So
Hmm.
I didn't grow up feeling that nurturing and that support and that sort of feminine feeling of being cared for in that way, that warmth, right?
Yeah.
Also sort of affected me in ways that I'm still working through.
Yeah.
Uh,
Same. I get you on that one.
right? Because
Yeah.
and that's the thing, we don't talk about that side either of that toxic feminine, that thing that
Yeah.
can destroy a man, like destroy,
Yeah.
you
Legit.
know.
It's really a very important dialogue that we could sit here and have a whole a whole nother session about,
Yeah,
definitely, because
let's do it. Let's do it.
because
And I
we
think, and I think the thing that's so important, Mark, is that it's not a matter of like someone is right and someone else is wrong, right?
Mhm.
It's not that if a woman listening to this all of a sudden feels like she's not being heard. I get that. Everyone needs to be seen and heard. And we need to stop blaming each other for different things. And we need to stop lumping everybody into things.
Yes.
And I even think saying toxic masculinity is problematic because it masculine itself is not the problem. The
Yeah,
things
yeah.
that's not
It's
it.
it's just these people that are literally these individuals
Yeah.
that are just
Yeah.
pieces of shit. Sorry, they're
Yeah.
just pieces of shit, and that there's a lot of pieces of shit that has both sides on both sides of the table.
What
So it's just
right?
it's just
100%.
that's
Same
the biggest issue, and I definitely agree with you on that. Definitely agree with you on that.
same thing. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, brother, I really appreciate you, brother. I
You
definitely
too.
don't want to take you too long, and I know Instagram they cut you off at like an hour, so they've done that to me right in the middle of a live before. So I
Really?
try
They
to,
chop it off?
yeah, they just chop it right off. They just
That's
have a
rude.
10-second timer and it just goes, and I'm like, and then it's
Like,
just
oh, I guess I'll
gone.
wrap
So
up now.
yeah.
Um, so I'm curious as we're ending this, what is the thing that you're working on in your life right now?
Right now, actually, I actually just joined a travel ministry that brings light to integration, like spiritual integration with your spirit and your soul in the sense of physical and spiritual. tying them instead of separating them with one saying, "Oh, I hate Earth, so I'm going to ascend and go all the way up." It's like you're here for a reason, so you have to bring that down. And then this side saying, "Oh, I'm just on Earth. I'm not a soul." Like here's a part of who you are too, and blending that, and also bringing awareness to plant medicine. So
Mm,
we're doing in a way of retreats and stuff like that, and traveling around. So right now I'm actually getting ready for that. Our first retreat is May 14th in Crestone, Colorado here. So
nice.
that's really what I'm working on personally, on top of um, getting ready to launch my second book. The first one has been amazing. It's about to end up being a year anniversary in August, so I'm going to launch the second one in August.
Congrats.
And just other than that, just reaching out to people and trying to just keep branching out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
How
I'm
about you?
I'm very curious about the tribal stuff you were just talking about, the thing that you joined and the integration. Because you mentioned light, right?
Light?
Yeah, you were talking about.
Sorry, you. Okay, can you hear me? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Can you hear me?
You know
Yeah,
how
yeah. Okay.
you know how the phone just says like you've used up all your time and then you have to punch in the thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. You said this thing that you joined, this integration of the spirit and the soul, but you said something about light, didn't you? That there's a
um, I'm not sure if I said light, but it's a church. We're actually a Native American chapter church. Um, Yeah, so I just joined as medicine man, so that's actually a big thing. But that the name of our church is Awakening Soul Church,
yeah,
and basically that's just the premise is integration, learning how to integrate. Um, Maybe I did say light, your light body, your spiritual body
yeah,
into your with your physical body. So your
yeah.
emotions and dealing with a lot of understanding that and understanding the tie of your emotions between your physical being and your spiritual being and
Mm,
the link between it. So
awesome. I'll check it out. I've always resonated a lot with the with Native American culture and wisdom and tribal like it's always made sense to me. You know, like on a deep
yeah,
level,
yeah,
it's always just made more sense to me because it's been so much more connected to the land. I think
yes,
one of the problems that we have is that we live so disconnected from our environment, from our land.
exactly. And
Yeah,
we've removed ourselves from what we are literally a part of and need to survive. It's,
I,
it's so redundant. It's so redundant.
I
But
know.
that's why I really was honored to be able to be a part of this church and with this chapter and just because it's a new way of just bringing old knowledge back, in a sense to
Yeah,
where it's not too traditional in the sense of making it to where people are too far away from it, but like more
yeah.
modern, but still with the premise of, hey, Mother Earth is Mother Earth. Like she gives us everything that we need. We have to cherish her, or
Every,
she's gonna
I know.
we're gonna lose her, and then
Yeah,
so yeah,
yeah. We gotta take care of her.
hmm
Yeah.
definitely. How about you, brother? What you
Um,
got going?
what am I working on right now? Really practicing just continuing to surrender control. You know,
Mm,
I'm in a men's group, practicing masculine embodiment, and a lot of the masculine work that we're talking about of how to hold space, right? How to be
yeah.
deep consciousness to hold space for the change that needs to happen on the planet, which involves being able to stay with the wild, crazy feminine, right? To be able
hmm
to strengthen our nervous systems, to be able to take more, to be able to
Yep.
withstand more. And so I'm doing that work and I'm finding a lot of it. Sometimes I confuse leadership with being in control. Like I confuse being
Mm,
a leader with
key.
being in control, right?
That's
And
key.
yeah, so really practicing just continuing to surrender that control more, to just hold the space. Um, and it's probably the biggest thing right now.
That's a blessing, brother. Like
Mm.
truly to even be able to share that. That's a vulnerable place to be in a sense of expression. So I appreciate you even sharing that aspect because I definitely honor that and respect that. because it's key. It's key. It's key, especially as a male with that energy and knowing
Yeah.
how to really channel it without it being too overly exerted and doing or under,
Or
or
un
lacking.
or
So
under.
that balance is key.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So no, thank you again, brother, for coming on with me, man. And we could stay on
Thank
here
you,
forever.
brother. This was fantastic. Let's do this again.
Yes, definitely, definitely, definitely. And as soon as I get off here, I'm shooting you my number.
Hit me
We're
up.
here.
We'll
We're
definitely.
here.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. This is just the beginning.
Definitely, definitely.
All right, my friend. Have a great
All
day, and
right,
I'll talk to
brother.
you very
You too, you too.
soon.
Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. Thank you, Mark.
Bye.
Bye.